Hey guys, coming to you live in the underground elevator room at BVSA here with Frank, Anthony, Timmy, Verge behind the sticks. Today's topic is the mental aspect of the game, how important it is, and when do we want to start teaching this to some of our clients. I guess I'll throw out the first thing, and I think for me personally, I think every client that I deal with personally, I think everybody's different in their own ways. I don't think we could put an age on something for the mental aspect, because I think everybody develops and what their understanding of the game is a little bit different. So to put an age at 6 or 7 or 8, I think I'd be, kind of lying. So I think it depends on the athlete you're dealing with, what he can intake, what he can understand at that level, and then branch off and
their level of experience with the game at that point. Like, are we dealing with someone who's never seen baseball before, or someone who grew up in Japan with their dad coaching Major League Baseball and taking batting practice on a Major League field at 3 years old?
Lucky kids.
Yeah, and it's also like the aspect of the mental aspect of the game is there's so many facets to it, right? Yeah. It's are you talking about knowing when to steal a bag and how to read rhythms on pitches, or are you talking about how to deal with failure and mental toughness in that aspect? Because I think almost every single interaction with baseball, you're either failing or succeeding. Like, at the earliest age, you either swing and miss or you don't, and it teaches you that mental toughness really, really early on every aspect. But then as you get more to the technical side, I think you're right on. I mean, the brain and what kids can intake and when they can't, and where that kid is, and also what lens we're looking at. Are we talking an instructor from a private lesson standpoint and like individual at-bats, or are we a coach now and talking to a whole group of what we need to accomplish in terms of our run game and how we're managing that and how we're
aggressiveness and at-bats, approach at the plate. Yeah,
there's a lot of variety to what mental approach to the game means, but it's the hardest part to teach.
Absolutely.
It is so difficult to teach that mental part. When you're talking about, we use the word swag a lot, or confidence, or whatever word that you want to use, and that whole mental approach, it is so hard to get through to some kids that, the game of failure, where you're failing so many times, and that you have to have that confidence even when you're not succeeding. And do you get confidence from success, or do you get have success because you have confidence? And I think we've seen it both ways. In my own house, is that, when you have confidence, I remember, you guys have heard the story, Zach coming home and saying he had 4 hits. And I would talk to JT as coach, and he only got up twice. That's a mental part of the game.
That's confident.
That's hard to teach. You can teach the bad math, but to really have that feeling, I killed it, Dad. I had 4 hits, I went up twice. The mental approach and thinking and preparing yourself for certain situations of the game, like Mike said, that's not an age. Some kids, you can't start teaching them how to react on a ball hit when they're on base because they're not sure which way they're running until a certain age. But there probably should be some guideline at some point that to advance through the ranks to be a baseball player, you should understand certain mental aspects of the game by certain ages, and if you're not, here's another sport.
I think you touched on something before, is whatever lens you look at it through. And I go back to your past years coaching over at St. Luke's and the way that you started analyzing at-bats for these kids. And you weren't looking at batting average, but you looked at quality at-bats. You understand what your roster looked like, and you changed the scope of what a successful at-bat
And actually,
was.
I got that from Alex Petty, who got that completely from Georgetown. That is all Georgetown baseball does. They do not look at batting average. They don't care about that. Steve Springer, quality at bats, he's another guy.
With a lot of smart people here in the elevator room.
And it just gives you a different perspective, because who am I to say I'm going to go out there and hit the ball hard 5 times, and then I got lined out 5 times and I'm 0 for 5, and that kid hit 3 dibblers and got over somebody and he's 3 for 5. That's kind of
so on your scale, what made a quality at-bat?
So that's
a successful at-bat.
You can morph that towards what your approach was, right? So the one year that Alex and I did it, we weren't swinging enough early in counts. So we told them that they took a first pitch fastball, that was not a quality at bat no matter what the thing was. And then as they got better at that approach, we adjusted it 3 weeks in. So it was hitting the ball hard, moving a runner over, scoring a run. Those were our basic things, but then you can kind of tweak your other variations to mold towards what you want the approach for the team to be or what they need at that time.
And for the kids, it puts them in an achievable mindset as well, and it makes them focus on different things rather than getting a base hit.
Exactly. And again, like we talked about, I mean, especially in today's world and in baseball, everything is success, fail, and it's good. And, you know, that we have to be realistic, but you have to be able to...
It's not binary, it's not yes or no.
Exactly. There are so many other variables, and, you know, as WAR and all these other stats start to develop, and guys that are way smarter than I am start to, you know, analyze baseball and trying to understand it from that lens, it's, you know, it's constantly changing and moving. You know, there's a lot of that.
And it's hard too. I mean, the type of player that I'm sure you were when you were growing up and you guys were and how I was, you have a lot of success when you're younger. And then the older you get, it's just the level of the field starts playing out and the averages start falling down. So to deal with failure for me personally was a little bit later in my career. And I didn't deal with it well because I just never was accustomed to that. I never had to go through that. So, you know, at the pro level, I know with Seattle Mariners, they would judge, like you were right, like it wouldn't be about average or, okay, you went 3 for 5. At the end of the day, when our hitting instructors had to send in all of our, you know, our stats or whatever they were calculating to the big guys to tell them what we were doing that day, they were going quality at bats, and then they were going number scale 1 to 5 on balls hit hard, 5 being the hardest. And that was like your quality at bat. You know, so, you know, the mental aspect is very, very important. I don't know if we could put an age on it to when we start teaching.
But this is one part of the mental aspect. The other part is teaching the kids to think. And that should happen at a very young age, no matter what their ability level is that when you go out in the field and you're playing defense, that you should be thinking about what may happen and what you need to do with the ball, and not, you know, looking for your parents in the stands or whoever, picking daisies, and that's something that absolutely should start at the young levels and get the kids being prepared for what's going to happen. The proper preparation prevents
piss poor performance.
I
mean, that's really, I wasn't playing travel baseball in Little League. This is definitely a new age thing that came on. We had volunteer dads that were there, great guys, but, you know, they were, you know, finance guys or whatever they were during the day. And I'll never forget Mr. McCullough. Actually, he was one of my coaches, and I must have been 9, and he said, before every play, what am I going to do with the balls hit to me, and what am I going to do with the balls not hit to me? No. It's his first name. Still that.
Couldn't tell you.
And it was just that simple aspect of teaching a young kid to ask themselves, what am I going to do with the balls hit to me? Where am I going with the balls not hit to me? What was that post that we just saw the other day? That was, if you have somewhere to be, if you don't have a
Oh yeah, from the BV Instagram.
Yeah.
Like knowing your job, knowing it's that, but then past that, what's your job? What's your job on the play? What's your job post play? What can you be doing when you're not on the field to make the people in the field more relaxed or more confident?
And just knowing that there are so many different things that have to happen on every single play. And I think, like we said before, a lot of it comes on experience. If you've watched 5 baseball games in your life, you can learn a little bit. If you prepare, a kid and have hours and hours of practice, hours of situations, there's a chance you go out to a game and a new situation that you didn't cover happens, right? Things happen that are wild all the time. So it's always, I think, the mental aspect of the game needs to be taught all the time, and it's just really, really thinking through it.
Including, again, back to the younger kids, the mental approach as a hitter. That nothing against the umpires of the world, but there's time limits on all these games, so they got to get them in. Some of these young kids aren't throwing strikes, so the strike zone has to be expanded so wide. So you have to teach these kids that side of the game, that look, he's going to call that pitch way out there. He's going to call these pitches. You have to go up there with an approach, because so many of these kids, so many kids that we teach them the physical parts of the game, and they just start to develop at different levels, good mechanics, really good swings. And then they go to the plate and they're just looking for that cookie all the time. And that approach, that mental side of the game, I mean, we could talk about we could break down all the different levels of the mental approach to the game.
I try to say to guys, like, there's the zone, there's your zone, and there's his zone. And you better know all of them and have an idea and know the situation. And, like you taught me a big one, 2-0 over your head, just kind of opening up the zone and, tricking the zone rather, the exact opposite, and knowing what you're looking for and then zoning in there. But if your zone and his zone aren't on the same page, that's got to adjust that day and understand all of those factors.
And teaching the kids to pay attention to umpires. What pitch is the umpire giving the pitcher? What isn't he giving them? Start to learn that stuff, and that's something that younger kids can learn for sure.
Just simply teaching communication, right? You had you let off, you got out, you came back, you told the next 5 guys what they saw, and we care enough to listen.
Did we answer the question? We're all over the place.
Yeah, we are.
No, but this makes a great podcast topic down the line.
It's an exact.
So I don't think there's an exact age to it. I think what we came up with, there's a mixture of everything, that all these other elements that come involved in when you want to start teaching the mental game, but it's definitely a need, and it's definitely something that we need to
It's a
teach, and that our
combination-
kids need to learn.
It's a combination of what you two said. You start teaching it at some
I guess we
point,
don't
and
learn.
it's a continuous learning. Is there topic points?
Yeah.
As a good coach, you need to be able to identify what mental parts of the game you can
Right.
teach to
which
the
kids.
individuals and for your team collectively to succeed.
Yeah, I've done some stuff where you get into some plays and you're like, wow, this is way over their head right
Yeah.
now. I should not have been working on timing plays to pick a second base right now. We should just still be working on double plays.
We should just do box drills and throw tennis balls at them while they're doing it to work on I use that. Speaking of mental game, so this is one of my favorite practices. I was coaching a pretty talented 14-year-old team that year. Spring
Zach
team,
was
right?
on it, right? Yeah. We won, I think, 3 tournaments in the spring.
3 or 4.
Yeah.
But our first tournament, we went 0 for 3. We got knocked out in 3 games, and the coach and I that were working together, Casey at the time, we determined this is mental. This is clearly not physical. These boys have some talent out there. They're not focused. They're distracted. They're focusing on the wrong things. So we had one practice where Casey and I got a box of like 150 tennis balls. And we had these kids going through simple drills, simple relay drills, simple box drills, stuff they've been doing for years and should be able to do like that. But we pegged them with tennis balls the entire time. Because the tennis ball doesn't hurt. If you pay attention to the tennis ball, that doesn't matter. The real ball's going to hit you. That one hurts. So we had a couple kids watching the tennis ball get hit with a real ball, and then they started to learn. After that, it was like a different team. We cleaned up with the errors, we cut them down, and then we started playing better, started paying attention, started picking bags, and it was like a nice turning point in the season. Talking about the mental change in it, we have to beat these kids with tennis balls, but it worked.
And they're not allowed that anymore.
Yeah, the dentist bills were not. Tim was suspended on it. You know, speaking of mental, this is real important, and this is a mental part of the game. Fear of failure, that kind we touched on, but fear of the baseball and getting hit, and teaching kids how to get out of the way of a baseball as a hitter is a really important teach that you can start at a very young age, so that they understand, you know what, I'm not completely defenseless, I know the move to get out of the way.
Thank you
That
for teaching me
makes
that,
them
by the way,
a-
because when I first started coaching, I would just pick them and just tell them that it didn't hurt.
We're really not that violent of a place, don't
We've evolved.
send your kids here.
But yeah, that makes a huge difference, right? I mean, and then I had a kid in high school last year at Luke's that, we talked to him and I love him to death, heavier the man, but he constantly would be up there and turn face first and just expose everything, and that, he just hadn't learned it. Awesome kid, hard worker, run through a wall for us, but he had never been taught that at a young age, and he hit some near misses.
Yeah, so to sum it up, I think that's kind of how we feel about the mental aspect of the game, and did I leave something out?
Make sure to subscribe.
Make sure you subscribe to our, what are they subscribe?
Scribble, that's scribble.
Scribble. Subscribe to the website, and we'll be back on. Thanks, guys.